Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be going over my round 1 game from the Charm City Spring Action Tournament, which is a bit of a mouthful to say. This was a full day of game in 25, delay 5. Each person gets 25 minutes and it's a delay of 5 seconds in between each move. This was a full day of chess. Basically, we started at I think like 10 a.m. was the first round and we went all the way until I think like 6 o'clock. Really long day of chess, but super fun. This is my local chess club that hosts this every year. They do it a couple times a year. This is the spring one, as you can tell, Spring Action Tournament. I actually played in the December one, which was like the winter one, and that was my first ever rated tournament, which it was so fun to play in. I had a great time. I won best unrated in the open, which was awesome, and so this time I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play in the open again. My rating went down since the last time I played in this one, so I got like a provisional rating of like 1434 or something like that the first time I played, and then I played in the Baltimore Open and I finished 2 out of 5 and my rating dropped like 100 points and I went to like 1340 something. And so walking into this one, I was like, I am definitely playing the open because it was so fun last time to play in the open, and it's like kind of the best spot to be in because if you win even like 1 or 2 games, your rating's gonna go up. All right, so let's get into the game. I got to play white my first round, which was very exciting. I have this rule where I do not look at my opponent's rating prior to the round because I think it helps me play better. I basically don't kind of psych myself out. I'm not creating these biases in my head of how I expect them to play. We're just playing chess. And so it's something that helps me. I started off with e4 and he played c5, knight c3, he played knight c6, I played bishop b5. And it's just kind of putting some pressure on that knight saying, hey, if you don't move it, I will trade it and I'm going to be very happy about it. And so now he played g6. This is all really normal stuff within the Sicilian. I then played f4. He played d6. And at this point, it's kind of perfect for me because now I know that he can no longer move this knight. Like sometimes they like to go here and attack this bishop that way. But now that he's kind of pinned his knight to his king, I know that he's not going to be able to move that knight and I will eventually be able to trade it off. So all of my stress is gone. And so now I played knight f3. Just developing. He then played bishop g4, trying to pin my knight to my queen, which I have no problem with. I then castled, just being like, hey, you're kind of giving me everything I want. I get to castle and I get to protect the knight with my rook, and now I can move my queen without having to worry about my pawn structure being damaged if the bishop takes. So then he developed his bishop, and then I played d3, opening up my dark squared bishop on c1. Now he brought out his knight to f6, and then I brought over my queen. So the idea here is basically I want to bring my queen out this way and open everything up and kill him on the dark squares over here and on the king side. And so he then castled. So once he castles, I kind of have to take this knight because it's no longer pinned to the king that was here. So now I just was like, okay, cool. Now's my time to take on c6. He takes back with the pawn. And then I played queen h4. And then he played a little bit of a fine move, but I really don't have anything to do on the queen side. I want to do everything on the king side. So he played rook b8, and then I was like, okay, let me take some time. So this is a game in 25 minutes, delay 5. So it's not that much time. And I was like, is now the time to play f5 or not? Because if I play f5 here and I open it up too early, things are going to get a little dicey, and I don't love that. I also don't like that my bishop is now tied to this pawn. Say I play b3. Now he's starting to take on e4 and everything's opening up. Everything's falling apart. Say I take like queen takes g4. He's just going to take this and it's going to suck for me. And then say I take back this way. Now it's kind of getting a little scary because like, okay, I can go here and then maybe I can take back. And then he can play like f5, attacking both my pieces. I can go back and then he's just going to take my knight. And then say I can go here, threatening mate. He can just defend by playing h5 and it gets pretty messy. And he's technically +3 in this position. So it's a little scary for me. He can also play here like bishop d4 checking me and then playing h5. That's probably actually better. And then I'm kind of screwed. Like, where am I going? There's not a lot that's going on for me and it's not too good. So I didn't play b3 because I didn't want to deal with any of that happening. I instead decided now is the time to play f5. If I wouldn't have played f5, I also could have played like king h1, and then say he wanted to take, we could just trade like this, and then he would probably play like e6, and we would just have a normal game. But instead, I was like, it is time to push. Let's play f5. I took some time to think here. I had about 17 minutes on the clock at this point, and then he took with the pawn. I didn't really think of playing like 91, not letting him take the knight, and kind of just letting his bishop be like, hey dude, you're kind of stuck here with this pawn here now. Like there's not really a runaway square. He can play like king h8. I can then play h3 attacking the bishop. He can move the bishop back. I can take that pawn, and then he can attack my queen. I can block with the rook. He can play queen b8, and then he can I'm gonna attack the rook again, and then he's probably gonna take my rook, and then I can take back with the queen. And it's not ideal for me. It's probably a good position, but it's just like kind of messy with like not having my rook here. What is this piece doing? What is this piece doing? Like this piece is still looking at this square, and then these pieces look kind of weird as well. So it's not very clear of how I was going to be able to convert this. So I instead just realized, you know what? Let's just take back with the pawn. And then when he takes back, I'm going to have some threats of like when I move this knight of having the rook then now be able to look at that bishop. So I played knight g5 thinking, okay, maybe I can create a weakness with him moving this pawn to attack. And so he didn't do that. He instead played rook b4, which I did not see at all. And I thought here for a second, and I was like, oh no, this is probably not good for me. And so I started getting scared, and I was like, all right, what am I going to do? How am I going to block all this shit that's going on? And so I thought, okay, I can play this. But then, you know, if he takes back this way, I can take back like this, but then he's just going to end up winning, say I take like this, he's just going to end up winning this pawn eventually because it'll go like this. I decided now to move my knight and block. And I moved my c knight because I knew that it was a weakness being here because it was not letting me ever move because of this threat eventually. And so of like them taking and things opening up. So I was never going to be able to play b3 and get rid of those weaknesses. And it was just going to be annoying. So I was like, you know what, let's move this knight in front of it. And then they just moved their bishop to be on g6. And it was just going to be a huge pawn there. And I thought, I must be winning now because there's no way that the bishop being on g6 is good. There's just no way that that is just a big pawn now. And there's no way that this is good for black. I must be winning here. And I had about 11 minutes on the clock right now, and my opponent had pretty much the same amount of time as me. So now this is just so sad for black. They're just forced to create that large pawn with their bishop on g6. I played c3, kicking the rook out with tempo. My b2 pawn is no longer weak, and my bishop can develop. My d3 pawn weakens, but that's only temporarily because I'm going to eventually be able to move that. And so he moved his rook to b7, and then I moved my rook to f3. I had about 8 minutes here. He played knight takes e4, and we traded, and now I had about 7 minutes. He then played f5. I saw all of this happening, and I assumed that this was what was going to happen. I didn't really know what to do with my knight here, though. I thought, I could play knight g5, or I could play knight g3. If I play knight g3, he's probably going to play e6, and then I kind of can play like bishop g5, threatening the queen, and then he's going to have to move his queen, and we'll go on from here. And I don't see a clear win here. I probably just bring my other rook over, but this pawn is not the best right now, and he has a really strong center. This looks a little scary, so I didn't really want to go into this. I instead played knight g5, threatening, not a lot, but I am technically threatening this, but he can just defend. And so he played bishop f6, defending, and then I played queen g3, and this is kind of saying, hey, I'm still threatening this if you don't take. And another move that I could have played was playing queen c4 check, and then he would probably block. I would take this pawn, he could move his queen to defend, and then defend the c6 pawn, and then I could play d4, just kind of saying, hey, I don't have any more weaknesses over there. And then he could take that knight, I could take back, and then he could take my pawn, and I can move my bishop to be able to then bring it probably over here to then create some threats this way. And then he can move his queen to double up. I can move my queen, and then he can move his rook. I can move my rook saying, hey, let's trade. And then if he wants to trade, we can totally trade. And then he can play like maybe his pawn, bringing his last one out, and then we could just take, and we have a game going on. This doesn't look the best for me because it's not super fun to play with 3 isolated pawns. Not gonna lie, especially in a quick game. I probably, knowing me, would blunder some of these pawns and lose the game. So I wasn't gonna go into this. I also didn't see this. This was like a 8-move sequence that I was not looking at. Had like 6 minutes on the clock at this point. Like, I was not looking at this. I played queen g3, and then he took my knight. And I should here take back with the bishop, because if I take back with the bishop, then he can't move this pawn. But I didn't do that. Instead, I took back with the queen, which is completely different, and it gives all of the advantage to black. At some point, I had the advantage, and then black had the advantage, and then I had the advantage, and then it was equal. And then here it's technically equal if I take back with the bishop, but I didn't do that. I took back with the queen, and it goes to like -1 for black because they have that crazy strong center. Kind of all of my threats are disappearing at this point because the more pieces we trade, the less threats I have, the less threats I have for checkmate. So, which is not great for me. I had 5 minutes here. He played e6. And I was like, oh, I don't really want a queen trade. So I played queen h6, and I was like, I'm not going to queen trade. And then he moved his queen here, and I was like, this guy's going to make me queen trade. That sucks. So here I should play h4 instead of g4, which I played, because playing h4, it's kind of just threatening to open things up by pushing here, and then this file opens up, and I can maybe bring my rook over, and I have more threats of checkmate. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do that right now because things are kind of going a little crazy, so I wouldn't be able to do that right now, but h4 is good. Instead, I played g4, which is not very good, and he played queen g7, basically being like, you want to trade queens? And here I started freaking out. I had about 3 minutes, and I was like, well, if I don't queen trade, I could definitely blunder mate or a tactic, and I could lose a piece because I don't really have a lot of time, and I'm not the greatest blitz player. And so I just took the queen, and he took back. And then here it's kind of just going downhill for white. I took the pawn. He's up a pawn at this point. He took back. And now he's just up a pawn, which is not great for me. And so then I played rook g3 check. He moved his king. I checked him again with my bishop on g5. He moved his king. I moved my bishop to then attack his rook. And then I realized, oh, he's just going to trade with me. And I don't really want to do that. But maybe I do because I don't have a lot of time. And if I don't, he's just going to take anyway. And I'll have to take back with my pawn, which maybe isn't the worst thing in the world. But I don't really want to do that. So I instead decided to take and make his king move back. And then at this point, I stopped writing down all of my notation because I had about a minute left. And I wasn't going to waste my time on writing notation. So I don't remember exactly what happened. But I do remember him moving all of his pieces to like perfect squares. I'm pretty sure it went like this. I moved my pawn to protect it. He took the other pawn. One of them was going to fall. And then I moved my rook to attack him. He moved his bishop. I took his pawn, and then he moved his king to defend all of his stuff. And then here I started moving my king. He started moving his pawns. I started moving my king. He now has a beautiful, beautiful bishop that's just protecting everything, but that I attack him, he has to move his bishop again, and then I moved my rook, thinking, okay, like I'm gonna keep putting pressure on this bishop. He moves a bishop, and I was like, ugh, that sucks. I moved my king, and then he checks me again. I move my king, and then he basically ended up being able to win all of my pawns, and I proceeded to lose on time. So, like, positionally and also on time. So I lost this game, even though I thought that I was definitely winning when, like if we go back all the way to when I had that beautiful position, he had that bishop on g6. I thought that I was definitely winning there. Like, I'm not sure really kind of what he was going to do, like going all the way to here. I thought this looks great for me. You know, I have the attack opening up. His G file is semi-open because there's not a pawn on this file, but I have a pawn. So I thought, this is probably winning for me, but I was not able to convert it, sadly. I asked him his rating after the game ended so I could write it down, and he was 1630, which makes me feel not too bad because at the beginning of this tournament, I was 1340 something, 1330, I think 1345. Anyways, same thing. And so that made me feel a little bit better. Like, all right, at least I lost to like a 1630. And then we talked about it after, and he was like, I think you should have definitely taken with the bishop instead of the queen, like when it was like over here. And I agree. That was definitely, this was a mistake. I should have taken with the bishop here. and it would have been a lot better for me. But that's not what happened. I lost the game, and that's okay because it was really hard. And I really thought that I was going to win this game when we got into that position, but that was not the case. And I got outclassed. But that was okay. I was excited to go into my next round. I wasn't that mad about losing to a 1630. I was like, all right, I feel like I actually held my own pretty well. I did feel like I wasn't able to get that like final like kill of like, okay, now that I have a winning position, now's my time to strike and convert. And that is something that I struggle with. I get into winning positions and then I don't know how to actually checkmate the person or like set up something that's going to be able to checkmate them in the future. And I end up trading pieces sometimes, and then it kind of loses all of my advantage. And so that's something that I need to work on, especially within the Grand Prix. But it was a fun game regardless, and I lost. It was fun. All of my friends actually lost all of their round 1 games, so we were all like, well, at least we're all losing together. But it was actually really funny. We're all like, how was your game? How was your game? I lost. We're like, well, all right, guys, we're gonna do great going into round 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a bit of a crapshoot because I ran out of time. That's something that I struggle with a lot. That's actually the joke at my club, is that like, oh, Sam loses on time once again. Sam's down on time once again. I just am really bad at staying up on the clock, and when it gets into blitz territory, it goes a little bit downhill for me. And so when playing in quick tournaments, that's kind of a guarantee that it's going to go into blitz territory, and I am going to forget how to play chess. So something that I need to work on, but also not the end of the world. Also, shout out to these earrings that Hannah got me. They're literally the cutest. Let me show you guys. They're literally little horsies. Also, do you guys like the new background? I don't know. Looks kind of cozy to me. I like it. I also like this little light that I can change colors with. See? Anyways, have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye. Get out of here.